Hi class, today I'll be responding to the argument that the decriminalization of marijuana at a federal level will prove beneficial to the American public and the US government. I'll be arguing my position that states should be able to keep the right to decide if they should legalize marijuana and benefit themselves in this way. It's important to remember we are still doing research on how legalizing marijuana benefits communities, and it is too soon to decide how making it legal at a federal level would impact our country. The three secondary claims my opponent makes is that, number one, decriminalization of marijuana will decrease the number of incarcerations and allow law enforcement to focus on more violent crime. Two, that the decriminalization of marijuana will increase its availability and safety for medical treatment. And three, that the decriminalization of marijuana will save government expenses and open up tax collecting opportunities. The advocate's first claim is that the decriminalization will decrease the number of incarcerations and allow law enforcement to focus on more violent crime. My claim in response to this is that statewide decisions on how to legalize marijuana have already proved beneficial, and leaving this decision up to the state, since each state is different and has different marijuana incarcerations and laws, is a better way of going about decriminalization. One of the statistics provided by the advocate states, Don Young, who has a doctorate in government and political science, says since 1972, about 16.5 million Americans have been arrested for violating cannabis laws. Over 80% of these arrests were for minor possession charges. In addition, currently 1 in 8 inmates is incarcerated because of cannabis. First, I want to address the number used in the statistic as unreliable. 16.5 million Americans since 1972 is about 350,000 arrests per year, but this is over a 46-year time span. So while it's still a large number, this is not a valid statistics in relation to how many marijuana arrests are currently taking place. This number is used as a shock factor, making it unreliable. Instead, I offer the following argument, that the states who have legalized marijuana, such as California, have the terms to determine how to proceed legally with marijuana offenses. When Prop 64, the marijuana proposition that passed in 2016 here in California, was implemented, it had a benefit on inmates who were incarcerated on marijuana charges already, as well as future arrests and convictions. Lyman, the California director for the Drug Policy Alliance, states, other than selling to minors and home butane extraction, which is using volatile materials to make marijuana concentrates, Prop 64 reduces or eliminates every marijuana criminal penalty currently on the books. Not only does it prevent the severity of the crimes in future arrests, records can also be applied to be expunged and have felonies reduced to misdemeanors, allowing past offenders to benefit from state decisions as well. And even before Prop 64 passed in 2016, our governor in 2010 at the time, Arnold Schwarzenegger, made carrying small possessions of marijuana an infraction, which triggered an 86 decrease in misdemeanor arrests over the period 2011 to 2016. In this way, the problem of decriminalization of incarcerations is already being taken care of on a statewide scale. The second claim provided is that the decriminalization of marijuana will increase its availability and safety for medical treatment. In the information provided, she gives us the following quote. University of California Center for Medicinal Cannabis Research has found that THC and CBD compounds in marijuana have reduced the nerve pain in patients with cancer, diabetes, HIV, AIDS, and multiple sclerosis. This quote perfectly proves my position that states who have legalized marijuana have already begun research proving that it's safe and already has medical benefits, not needing the approval from the federal government. Because research is already being conducted on a statewide scale, the government's legalization is not necessary to continue research. The research that has already been conducted with or without the government's approval is already proving that it is beneficial. California universities, including UC San Diego, University of Mississippi, and Humboldt State, have already been researching the effects of marijuana. In fact, the University of Humboldt created its Institute for Interdisciplinary Marijuana Research 6 years ago. UC Davis now has a cannabis research initiative. UCLA rolled out its cannabis research initiative in 2017. And UC Irvine's Center for the Study of Cannabis launched a couple months ago, quickly landing a $9 million grant from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. My final claim is that the decriminalization of marijuana will save government expenses and open tax collecting opportunities. In response, I offer the claim that further research should be completed on how marijuana's legalization impacts all aspects of community, not just medicinal, including expenses and tax collecting opportunities before we hastily decide to legalize it federally. In fact, an article posted on the OC Register describes that multiple universities are already competing for $10 million of research that is provided by the legalization of Prop 64. The ballot measure says research might include impacts on public health, public safety, marijuana use rates, the environment, the economy, and more. These studies conducted in states that have already legalized marijuana are important to be conducted and fully finished to see the effects both short and long term of how marijuana affects communities. It is also important to understand that states are all run differently. California is very different than Oklahoma, Oklahoma very different to North Dakota. Autonomy in decisions should be left in the hands of each individual state because we are a republic for a reason, and it's important to recognize the states' rights in governing themselves. In conclusion, it is too soon to decide if legalizing marijuana on a federal level would prove beneficial to our communities. Until research is fully completed and we can see the impacts of legalizing marijuana to public safety, marijuana use rates, the environment, the economy, we should wait instead of rush legalization. Thank you.
All right, we've got a quasi-policy argument discussing whether or not legalization would have some beneficial outcome. The preview of the supporting claims was clear. On your first point concerning incarceration, I think you do a pretty good job at the start diminishing the significance of this incarceration, suggesting that the amount of time and the number that is being presented is done primarily to stress us out, to kind of give an impression, but it's not nearly as significant as it could be. I think that's a pretty good piece of information and a good way to present that argument. Then you kind of basically say state laws are already doing these kinds of things, and you use California as the example, which I think is also okay. But if it's so great for California, why is it that we're not requiring other places to do it and achieve the same sorts of benefits? I think you need to make an argument earlier that suggests that there are other things that we need to be evaluating in part of the process. And if California wants to make the decision here, that's their right to do, but there are consequences to making those decisions. Colorado, for instance, might be one of the better examples because they do have a little bit more data on some of the things that have happened subsequent to the change in the marijuana laws. Ours is probably not up to date yet since it's relatively new and it's only been implemented within the last year, even though it was passed 2 years ago. The other information that you have here suggests that we had really declined in the number of people that were being arrested anyway, so it's not like there's some huge need that is going unresolved. It seemed like it was relatively minimal. Again, that's primarily California. I think if the advocate could present information from other places that said that they weren't following the same sorts of trends, that would be helpful. Your general position seems to be that we should wait and let the research process take place, which I think is a good strategy for a policy argument. The claim of fact, though, that's being made here, it seems to suggest that we're losing all these benefits while we're waiting. We keep paying for people in prison. We don't have the kind of research that we would have otherwise, and we don't have the access to medical materials that we would have otherwise. I don't think it would be hard for you to point out that lots of states have made marijuana available for either medical or recreational purposes, so people aren't being denied access to those resources. That's going to happen. You did do a pretty good job showing that there is extensive research that's going on, and you quantified some of the monies. I think you missed a joke opportunity there when you said, and UCLA rolled out their own claim, I think they rolled up their own claim. That's the way you want to say it. They rolled up their own study, on marijuana. So there's a bit of humor that you could stick into the argument and maybe make it a little bit more ethos friendly. And then on the research issue, we're back to the same kind of material. Are we doing research on marijuana? Yes. Are the states being able to supplement it? Yes. Are people getting access to information currently? Yes. So why do we need to change at this particular point? Why don't we just wait and I think that's the way you phrase the question at the end. All right. Thank you.